The Xiaomi 12T Pro is a new mid-range smartphone from the Chinese brand that aims to deliver a high-end camera experience on a phone which doesn't break the bank. For the most part, this phone offers some incredible value for money thanks to its vibrant 6.67-inch AMOLED display and its 200 megapixel main lens camera. However, it is hard to ignore the corners that have been cut to get all of this value packed into a phone that costs just shy of 15,000 Rand. For starters, this phone doesn't have any wireless charging, which is pretty basic these days. It also lacks an official IP rating, meaning unlike mostly every other phone on the market, this isn't waterproof and dustproof either. Instead of focusing on some key features, Xiaomi instead packed this phone with a 200 megapixel camera lens and 120 watt charging. Both of these features could have been cut in half in order to budget for more things like waterproofing and wireless charging. Apart from that, the Xiaomi 12T Pro is a great device, and the main selling point here, that 200 megapixel camera, does a good job. It is one of the highest megapixel camera sensors you can get on a phone, and it produces some incredible shots. Sadly, the secondary camera lenses aren't even half as good, so you'll likely never use them anyway. Other specs on this phone include a 5000 mAh battery, 5G support, and a Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 processor. This means that everything I threw at the phone worked smoothly and flawlessly, well, except for water, because it's not waterproof. The Xiaomi 12T Pro doesn't look very fancy at all. It boasts a large screen in the front with a punch-hole front-facing camera. The back is glass and the frame is made from plastic. There's a giant camera sensor on the back that boasts the following camera array. On the top of the phone you'll find a Harman Kardon logo because the speakers are powered by the brand. More on that in a bit. There's also an IR blaster, which is also another strange addition to the phone. There's also a USB charging port at the bottom, no buttons on the left hand side, and a volume rocker and power button on the right. The Xiaomi 12T Pro is 8.6mm thick and weighs 200 grams. It includes an under-screen fingerprint scanner too and facial recognition, but Xiaomi warns that this face unlock isn't as secure as say Apple's Face ID. The overall design is pretty mediocre to say the least. The black model is especially a snore face, but I have seen it in blue and it looks a lot better. So just be wise when shopping around for your ideal model. The display on the phone is quite impressive. It packs a 120Hz 6.67-inch AMOLED display with a pixel per inch of 446. It gets very bright with a peak brightness of 900 nits for HDR and Dolby Vision content, and it runs at about a 500 nits on daily use. The display's refresh rate is also adaptive, meaning it can change depending on what you're doing. I could also manually set the refresh rate lower to save battery. The display doesn't have the highest resolution though, it's only 1220 by 2712, but things still look sharp and clear. The general performance of the phone is quite decent. I did play games and while the phone did get hot, it was manageable. The in-game overlay also helped me boost the performance of my games to take advantage of the display's refresh rate. I also ran some benchmarks and got the following scores. Xiaomi has once again proven that you can pump all the megapixels into a camera possible, but that doesn't really make it a good camera. While the 200 megapixel camera is decent, it isn't any better than say a camera with say 50 megapixels in it. That is to say, this camera sensor isn't bad, but you really don't need a 200 megapixel camera to pull off what you're going to get on this phone. By default, the camera shoots a 12.5 megapixel photo. You can choose to use all 200 megapixels in one shot, but these photos will likely take up close to 100 megapixels per shot. The 200 megapixel shot also take a few seconds to shoot, which isn't ideal for most photography. You can choose to use a 50 megapixel shot, which results in a smaller photo size and much quicker shooting too. The 200 megapixel shot mode comes in handy for two main reasons. Firstly, if you ever need to print a giant billboard using the photos you take, you can use these large files to do that. Secondly, you can also crop these photos in quite nicely and still end up with a decent shot. Generally speaking, the 200 megapixel lens does a decent job of taking photos and filming content, but the AI on the phone does over-sharpen stuff a bit too much for my liking. Some shots just looked a bit noisy as a result. I was especially impressed with the main lens's low light capabilities. The phone just naturally shoots nighttime shots without even switching to a manual night mode. These photos also came out a lot brighter than I expected. The quality was really great. Sadly, the other two lenses are just horrible. The 2 megapixel macro lens doesn't work very well even in medium light, and the shots are blurry and ugly. The 8MP wide lens is also too low of a megapixel to produce anything close to the main lens. You'll likely avoid using these other two lenses after mastering the main lens just because of how drastically different the pictures came out. I was also impressed by the general video quality on the phone. It records at 8K 30fps, but you'll likely want to stick to a 4K video just to benefit from more stabilization. When it comes to the battery, the Xiaomi 12T Pro does a decent job carrying you through the day. I was able to use the phone for the whole day and still have about 20% left at night. That's about 10 to 12 hours of general use in one charge. The 120W charger also means that this phone can charge to around 70% in just 50 minutes and all the way to full in 30 minutes. I get that this is convenient, but I can't help but worry about the battery health and the lifespan of your battery with using this 120W charger always heating up the cells so drastically. I would honestly opt for a lower watt charger just to save the damage on the battery in the long run. Other than that, the general use of the Xiaomi 12T Pro was pleasant. I did hate the bloatware on the phone's MIUI 13 OS, but getting around and using the phone wasn't a problem at all. The control panel is especially a lot cleaner than most Android phones, and the general look and feel is somewhat clean and sleek. Xiaomi says the phone will get 3 years of Android updates and 4 years of security patches, which is also good news too. Overall, I kind of wish Xiaomi added basic things like wireless charging and waterproof to this phone. I just can't get a phone in 2022 and not have those things, they're just so basic now. The 200MP camera is also overkill, and that could have been at least 150MP in favor for wireless charging. However, it is still generally a decent phone at a competitive price tag. So those are my thoughts on the Xiaomi 12T Pro. Are you looking to pick this phone up? Let me in the comments down below. As always, please do consider liking and subscribing for more future content, and visit www.glitchedonline for more gaming and tech news and reviews. Until next time, farewell.